Some of my favorite games to play are the ones I can get very immersed in. As a kid growing up, I always wondered, while playing my favorite video games, what it would be like to live in those video games, and some of the areas that lie within them. And since the year is 2025, we're pretty spoiled with the games that we do have. One of the first ones that come to mind is Red Dead. It's easy to find yourself really immersed in Red Dead, but with the realistic graphics, the amazing lighting, the NPCs have a mind of their own and will interact with other NPCs and you in different ways, and will react to you in the world as well.
That's it. Get some of that anger out.
The game will also incentivize you to be a little bit more realistic and take care of Arthur by eating to maintain his cores and also cleaning his weapons to make sure they're effective for your next bank robbery. These are just little examples of mechanics that make games a bit more realistic. And as well, if you already know the story of Red Dead 2, some of you may already be incentivized to keep Arthur up and give him a good life before his canon event. Uh-oh. If you know anything about Red Dead, you know it has great characters and great character arcs throughout the story. Having a more grounded narrative is a great way to immerse your player and or reader. Having something in the world that feels real and tangible and that could happen to you, or it sounds like it can happen to someone else, makes everything feel more real and like you're living in the world and not just controlling a puppet with a controller.
I broke the goddamn wheel.
This also sort of goes along with what I mentioned before with having to feed and eat Arthur. Having these systemic immersions or having to play to a logic or by the game's rules is another way to get yourself immersed. However, there is one medium of video games that you can put yourself into and physically interact with the world, with that being virtual reality. VR is so different because instead of having to just press buttons, you have to press buttons and physically move your arm, acting out motions such as holding guns, reloading them, swinging swords, or punching people in the face, or opening drawers. That physical element to me is just what brings it all together. Having to actually use my body to play the video game, and it really just makes games enjoyable. But ever since the beginning of probably this year, 2025, I'd say there's been a bit of a drought in VR games. There was Arkham Shadow for the MetaQuest 3, but I don't own one of those, so I don't get to play that. And it just feels like the 2022 to 2023 VR phase, feel like everyone and their mom was jumping in and playing a VR game at the time. Especially with games like Beat Saber, which can really just get you physically active while you're playing a really good song. I mean, this is a good copyright-free song. Okay, that's kind of embarrassing. It's not the most realistic game out there, but getting really locked in on having to swing these lightsabers around to some of your favorite songs is really immersive in its own way because you get so lost in it and you're just trying to hit those perfect scores and finish the song without failing. Because as fun and engaging as the gameplay can be and pull me into it, I'm always taken out when I look down and realize, oh yeah, I don't have legs, I'm just two floating pencils with little light tubes coming out of them. Beat Saber is more motion stick friendly as you won't be moving around as much and be standing still in one spot. It's super engaging, you gotta actually physically move to dodge something. I don't really know how to explain it, but the controllers vibrate in just a very satisfying way. When you're cutting blocks and moving around, it just feels nice. Beat Saber is what I'd like to call the most entry-level VR game out there, but as well as like one of the very first like prehistoric VR games. Because before it was essentially just fucking roller coaster simulators. You were paying $600 for that, with no controllers or anything, and you're having to use like your fucking Xbox controller on your PC. Nowadays, with cameras and tracking, we can actually, you know, do that all wirelessly from the headset without a computer. If you know anything or have kept up with anything VR in the last like 5-6 years, then you will have heard about Blade and Sorcery. The main draw when Blade and Sorcery released back in 2018 was its full use of a physics simulator. Not a lot of games back in 2018 had this kind of feature or to its degree. Giving it very solid swings in real life will actually net you some good damage versus some weak, lame jabs and stabs and like just trying to play it as a video game. And when it comes to getting into the immersion in the game, it's really easy, of course, with the vibes and the visuals of the game alone. The visuals will have your mouth just gaping open. The sun looks so real, the lighting, the shadows, it all creates this illusion that makes you think you are experiencing this fantasy world. Along with a very wide variety of weapons to use, such as axes, spears, swords, daggers, and even bows and arrows, as well as some spells to cast like fire, lightning, and gravity. This base layer allows you to create a very solid character to your own liking. And as well, combat is just visceral and very gory. You can dismember enemies, burn them alive, electrocute them, stab them in the face. You can just straight out become a psychopath in this game. Even sometimes I catch myself feeling like I should just be stuck in the VR and put in a rubber room and never to be seen again. Die, die, die. Oh! Yeah, you. Yeah, fucking head, yeah! Yeah, I'm really sorry I made you guys watch that. Anyway, moving on. And even though I have actual no sword or axe or any kind of combat experience whatsoever, the way the game is developed still makes me feel like a badass because I'm actually having to physically swing and dismember and brutalize these poor NPCs. Oh yeah, baby! Oh, I feel good about that. Oh yeah. By far the most immersive way to play Blade and Sorcery is through the Crystal Hunt game mode. Creating a new character with a set of rules, like I'm only going to use daggers, or I can only use weapons that I find in the dungeons themselves, or maybe I'm trying to replicate some sort of anime character or someone from a video game or TV show. It can very heavily rely on a creative brain to roleplay, or if you have a crazy amount of ADHD like I do. You have failed this city. You failed the city, you failed the city, you failed the city, you failed the city, you failed it. Oh my god, you failed it too, you failed it, you failed it, you failed it. This helps me feel like there is a bit of progression to it, as well as a goal to end up for, instead of just mindlessly killing NPCs over and over and over again like you will in the sandbox mode. Throughout your dungeon crawl and mass massacre of the faction that lies within the dungeon, you'll be looting different goblets, trinkets for money to use at the shop for more weapons and armor. And as well, you can find lore bits throughout the dungeons in forms of notes. I don't know how to fucking read. And you get to also fight the boss at the end of the Dalgarian dungeons. While it is the only boss fight in the game, it is really well solidly made. Climbing on it and having to smack the crystals and running around the arena to unlock the rest of them so you can eventually take them out and finish the dungeon. After a while, it still does get repetitive, even though it is still a really well made boss fight. What the fuck? Oh my god, I've totally never seen this before. What? Whichever is your preferred playstyle, Blade and Sorcery can have you feeling like the knight, mage, or thief that you've always wanted to be in real life. I love this game. And for those who know Blade and Sorcery, you know how moddable it is, and this opens the door for a way new version of Immersion.
I don't have a clue what you just said.
Like becoming some of your favorite anime characters like Gojo or Sukuna. These mods I recently found and have absolutely fell in love with them. I have of course had to mod in the Guts Greatsword as well as the Berserker armor, cause duh, why wouldn't I want to use that? I don't want to goon. For me, that is not a way to live. Oh my god, I really do feel like Guts though. Oh, I feel like Guts! Oh, your guts are everywhere. I get it. As well as some other ones like guns you can straight up add to the game. I actually find myself playing a game called Hard Bullet for that kind of stuff. Essentially, it is a little bit of the same game that Blade and Sorcery is. It's still physics-based, you gotta fight, and it's more related to guns and more of a John Wick style of play. So, this is another recommendation. This is a secret honorable mention that you guys get. Congratulations. So if you are looking for a more sandbox-like game, but for guns, I'd recommend Hard Bullet. There's a little bit of a progression system with leveling up weapons or skins, and they have their own updates coming out soon, hopefully with a new campaign mode in the future. But there's one game, one VR game that is what I would call the most immersive VR game out there, and that is Into the Radius. This is the game that fully sold me on VR. I had never watched a single trailer, a single piece of gameplay, nor have I ever heard of it until one day I just found it on my Steam. I looked at it, watched the trailer on the Steam page, and was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Went to YouTube, discovered Happy's YouTube channel through Into the Radius, and then I was just completely sold on having to play this VR game. This game is essentially Stalker in VR. This was my introduction to the Stalker genre, or whatever you really want to call it. This is one of the most intense and probably more difficult VR VR games out there, either with you're struggling with the sheer difficulty of the game, or if you just get motion sick a lot. Ah, shit, dude. Fuck this guy. All right, it's not worth it, because I suck. I'm bad. Fucking run. Serpentine. Game crashed. To quickly go over gameplay, because I want to make this into its own video down the road at some point. Your main goal is to survive out in the radius. You are alone. You have nothing but a robotic voice telling you to go do missions, which is research for the UNSCP, which is this whole faction that is dedicated to studying the radius. Your job is to either do missions for them and collect artifacts to sell back to them so you can spend money so you can keep surviving, as leaving the radius is almost impossible, as just taking the fog will just lead you back into the radius, showing that there is no escape in sight, that your only way is forward. As well, you are drawn by the main story involving the character Katya, and trying to help her and free her from the radius, as well as trying to free you and gain your memory back. Your biggest enemy is the radius itself. You must be prepared anytime you take off into it, bringing food, guns, medkits, and of course, plenty of ammunition. That, by the way, to up the immersion factor, you have to load bullet by bullet into each magazine separately. Although for those not wanting to do this every time, you can just hold the magazine up to the box. But you're a loser. There is no slow motion. All the gunfights that you'll be having in this game are going to be set in real time. Nothing is more stressful than being chased or shot at by enemies while fumbling a reload because you are hitting your bed or any other object in your room, or just being a plain dumbass like I am. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Ah, crazy yellow eyes, man. They're like Sith. To kind of keep it short, Into the Radius does the opposite of what a lot of VR games does, and instead of making you feel like this overpowered, immense superhero, it brings it down entirely and makes you feel like you're just some normal guy who knows how to at least operate a gun somewhat. This makes combat very fierce, intense, stressful, and above all else, the AI is very aggressive. They will take advantage of you and run up on your shit when they can. So it's always important to scout out new areas and know what you're dealing with so you can stay prepared and one step ahead when taking on the more top priority missions. I'm trying to be as still as possible. The devs of Into the Radius really understood about putting certain items in certain places, like cigarettes in cupboards, where it makes it feel like an actual person placed it there and left it there, or the radius knows where a person would place that object. Since when the tide hits, which happens every couple of in-game days, it resets everything, enemy spawns, and loot locations. You can also find a various amount of lore items such as cassette tapes or notes left by other explorers or the previous residents of the Pachorsk zone before the event of the Radius. Nope. Finding out what happened, who or what caused the Radius, and exactly what went down in this area, because dear God, are the landscapes in this fucking game beautiful. The graphics in this game is beautiful. Everything about this game just screams mystery and excitement and just makes me feel like how I did when I was exploring Bloodborne or any other Dark Souls game for the first time. VR is just so interesting because it kind of reminds me of back in the day when we had PS2 games that we could still physically see the polygons. You don't see that nowadays, but VR is this new nurturing form of game that's kind of been neglected this past year, and I hope to see some more games or just more innovation come out with it than we've seen recently, because I feel like we've just seen absolutely nothing. But let me guys know what your favorite VR games in the comments, or what kind of VR games I'm missing out on. Do you think VR could make a comeback at the tail end of this year, or something big might be happening in 2026? Let me know your guys' thoughts below in the comments, and leave a like if you guys did enjoy this different style of video. I know it was different from my little review-ish kind of video thing, but I wanted to talk about more of VR as a whole rather than just one VR game. Anyway, appreciate you guys for making it this far in the video if you did, and I hope to see you guys later.